Surviving a relationship with a narcissistic personality often feels like navigating a violent, unpredictable storm. The sudden rages, the dizzying contradictions, and the affection that vanishes without a trace leave you entirely disoriented, constantly bracing for an emotional impact you can never quite anticipate. However, this sense of chaos is an illusion. The behaviors that appear erratic on the outside are the outputs of a highly predictable, incredibly rigid internal logic. Many victims struggle because they project a healthy emotional logic onto a person who does not possess one. We try to reason with them or offer empathy, assuming they share our basic psychological goals. This schematic illustrates the necessary perspective shift. You are analyzing the rigid mechanical system that dictates their behavior. To survive a toxic dynamic, you have to investigate the mechanics of the pathology itself. This system usually originates in an overwhelming childhood environment. This might involve severe abuse, capricious parenting, or the child being instrumentalized, treated as a prodigy whose only value is fulfilling a parent's unlived dreams. Under this pressure, the developing mind learns that objective reality is unsafe and their authentic self is unlovable. Consequently, their emotional development arrests, locking in place somewhere between the ages of 4 and 11. To survive, the child's psyche fractures, creating distinct layers that separate the individual from a hostile world. This map shows the resulting structure. At the center is the true self, paralyzed by shame and hidden away. On the perimeter is the false self, an invulnerable fiction constructed to interface with reality. Between them lies the void, the space separating their delusional self-image from the actual world. This structure is a permanent barrier. The person you are trying to reach is buried beneath an unyielding shell designed specifically to remain impenetrable. Healthy self-esteem is self-sustaining, but the narcissist's false self functions like a combustion engine requiring constant external regulation. It runs on narcissistic supply. Primary supply is high-octane fuel, adulation or fear. Secondary supply, spouses, family, or a prestigious career, provides a stable idol. When reality contradicts the false self, the mind deletes the information, creating genuine memory gaps. To function, it generates a confabulation. It invents a plausible fiction, a plug-in narrative, to bridge the void. To outsiders, these are lies, but to the narcissist, they become absolute reality. Attempting to argue objective truth in these moments is useless. You are dealing with a system whose primary function is the deletion of any evidence that threatens its survival. The common assumption that narcissists lack empathy doesn't account for their ability to read people with devastating accuracy. They possess cold empathy, a cognitive instrument used for data gathering and processing, entirely devoid of emotional resonance. They apply this tool to map a target's vulnerabilities. Like a predator sensing a prey's panic, they read psychological cues with precision, solely to determine how to charm and exploit them. This data drives a rigid cycle. Phase 1, idealization, draws you into a shared fantasy. When you fail to meet impossible expectations, the system triggers Phase 2, devaluation through gaslighting. Once depleted, they execute Phase 3, a ruthless discard, pivoting to find a new source. The abuse cycle is a mechanical process. The discard occurs when the target is no longer a viable source of supply, forcing the engine to search for fresh fuel. This framework was popularized by Sam Vaknin, a self-admitted narcissist who synthesized decades of psychoanalytic theory through the lens of his own pathology. This comparison highlights where Vaknan diverges from clinical consensus. While mainstream psychology views personality disorders on a fluid spectrum with some potential for management, Vaknan claims the disorder is 100% incurable. His framework creates a distinct tension. It can serve as a destructive echo chamber of hopelessness, or it can provide the structured vocabulary victims need to understand their abuse and survive. The paradox lies in how this map was created. A narcissist's mind should technically delete information that exposes their flaws. However, Sam Vaknin's pursuit of internet notoriety, his need for primary supply, pushed him to apply his clinical intellect inward. By describing his own internal machine to gain fame, he effectively published its manual. This absolutist model provides a way out of the dynamic. It offers victims the specific vocabulary needed to recognize the patterns and detach. Survival starts with a shift in perspective. You must recognize that you are dealing with a machine seeking fuel rather than a partner seeking connection. As this animation shows, the most effective defense is cutting to supply. By refusing to provide fear, anger, or adulation, you starve the engine and halt the cycle. You can learn to spot confabulations in real time. Detaching from arguments over the truth becomes easier when you realize their reality is a temporary fiction designed to protect the false self. Mirroring creates the illusion of a deep bond, but it is a data-driven tactic used to secure you as a source of fuel. Recognizing this allows you to step out of the shared fantasy. By understanding the rigid mechanics of this pathology, victims transform from confused participants in chaos into empowered observers equipped to survive.